The crystal chandelier sparkled like diamonds against the vaulted ceiling of the Riverside Hotel ballroom. Sophia Martinez smoothed down her emerald green dress, feeling both elegant and nervous. She had spent nearly half her monthly salary on this outfit, but tonight was important. The annual charity gala brought together the most influential people in the city, and as executive assistant to Alexander Blackwood, she needed to look the part. Alexander appeared beside her, tall and commanding in his tailored black suit. At 38 years old, he had built his technology empire from nothing, and his presence commanded attention wherever he went. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his blue eyes scanned the room with the sharp focus of someone always thinking 3 steps ahead. "You look beautiful tonight," Sophia Alexander said, his voice warm despite the formal setting. "Thank you for accompanying me to this event. I know charity galas are not exactly thrilling entertainment." Sophia smiled, trying to hide her nervousness. For 3 years, she had worked as his assistant, managing his impossible schedule and learning the intricate world of corporate technology. Alexander had always treated her with respect and kindness, but she maintained careful professional distance. The gap between their worlds felt impossibly wide. He was the son of old money, educated at prestigious universities. She was the daughter of immigrants who had worked 2 jobs to put her through community college. "The cause is important," Sophia replied, watching the auction displays of artwork that would fund scholarships for underprivileged students. "Besides, someone needs to make sure you do not bid impulsively on expensive paintings just because you like the colors." Alexander laughed, that deep, genuine sound that always made something flutter in her chest. "You know me too well. That is why you are invaluable." They moved through the crowd, Alexander greeting business associates and donors with practiced charm. Sophia stayed close, occasionally whispering reminders about names or previous conversations. She had become skilled at being the invisible support system that made his professional life run smoothly. "Alexander, wonderful to see you," a woman's voice interrupted them. Sophia turned to see Catherine Whitmore, socialite known for her extensive charity work and her interest in wealthy bachelors. Her silver dress probably cost more than Sophia earned in 3 months. "And who is this lovely companion?" "Catherine, this is Sophia Martinez, my executive assistant," Alexander introduced her politely. Sophia felt the familiar sting of that word. Assistant, just an employee, nothing more. "How nice," Catherine said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. It must be rewarding to work so closely with someone as successful as Alexander. Before Sophia could respond, a laugh echoed across the room. Her blood turned cold. She knew that laugh intimately. For 4 years, she had heard it every day, till 6 months ago when everything fell apart. She turned slowly, and there he was. Daniel Freeman looked as handsome as ever, his blonde hair styled perfectly. Wearing an expensive suit that she remembered helping him choose last year, beside him stood a stunning woman with long dark hair and flawless makeup. Sophia recognized her immediately from social media. Victoria Chen, an influencer with millions of followers and a lifestyle that screamed luxury. Daniel's eyes met hers across the room, and his expression shifted from surprise to something that looked like satisfaction. He walked toward them with Victoria on his arm, that charming smile that once made Sophia's heart race, now only making her stomach twist. "Sophia," Daniel said, his voice dripping with false warmth. "What an unexpected surprise. You look different. New dress?" "Hello, Daniel." Sophia forced herself to sound casual, feeling Alexander tense slightly beside her. "This is Victoria, right? I have seen your posts online." Victoria extended a perfectly manicured hand, her eyes evaluating Sophia from head to toe. "Oh yes, the ex-girlfriend. Daniel has told me about you. That dress is interesting. Is it vintage?" The subtle insult burned. Sophia knew exactly what Daniel had said about her, that she was too practical, too focused on stability, unable to dream big or take risks, that she was content with her simple life and could not keep up with his ambitions. "And you, Sophia?" Daniel asked with mock concern. "How are things? Still working on those career plans? Or did you finally accept that some people are not meant for big success?" His words hit like physical blows. Throughout their relationship, Daniel had slowly eroded her confidence, making her feel small and inadequate. Even now, months after their breakup, his judgment still had power over her. Sophia felt her face flush with humiliation. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. For a moment, she was transported back to all those times Daniel had made her feel worthless, incapable, undeserving of anything better than the life she had. Then she felt it. A warm, firm hand gently touching the small of her back. Alexander's voice came from beside her, low and intimate in a way she had never heard before. "Sorry for keeping you waiting, darling," he said smoothly, pulling her closer to his side. His hand settled possessively on her waist, and Sophia felt her breath catch. "The auction is about to start, and I promised you we would bid on that sculpture you loved." Sophia looked up at him in confusion, but Alexander's eyes told her to play along. His expression was tender, affectionate, completely convincing. Alexander Blackwood, he extended his hand to Daniel with a polite smile, though Sophia noticed the coldness in his blue eyes. "Sophia's boyfriend. Pleasure to meet you." Daniel's jaw literally dropped. Victoria's eyes widened in recognition. Everyone in the city knew Alexander Blackwood. His face appeared regularly in business magazines and society pages. He was consistently ranked among the most eligible bachelors, with a fortune that made him one of the most powerful men in the region. "Boyfriend?" Daniel stammered, looking between Sophia and Alexander in disbelief. "But when? How? You never mentioned anything about dating someone when we were together?" "We met through work," Sophia heard herself say, somehow finding her voice despite her racing heart. Alexander's presence beside her gave her strength she did not know she had. It developed naturally over time. "Alexander Blackwood," Victoria whispered, clearly impressed despite herself. "The tech billionaire. I read about your latest venture in Forbes." "That is correct," Alexander said, and then he did something that made Sophia's world tilt on its axis. He leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her temple, lingering just long enough to seem intimate and real. Sophia has been instrumental in that success. Her insights and intelligence are remarkable. In fact, she is the strategic mind behind our last 3 major projects. Sophia stared at him in shock. While it was true that she had contributed ideas and helped develop strategies, she never expected Alexander to acknowledge that publicly. "Especially not like this." "How impressive," Daniel said, though his tone suggested he found it hard to believe. "I had no idea you had connections like this, Sophia." "Sophia does not need connections," Alexander said, his voice maintaining politeness, but with an edge that made even Sophia shiver. "She has earned everything through her own merit and brilliance. Actually, she was just promoted to Director of Strategic Development." Sophia almost choked. That was completely untrue. But the lie sent a thrill through her, even as it terrified her. "Director?" Daniel repeated, incredulous. "But you were just an assistant when we were together." "That was then," Sophia said, finding her confidence returning. "Things change. People grow. Some of us were just waiting for the right opportunity and the right person to believe in us." Alexander squeezed her waist gently, a gesture of support and encouragement. For a moment, Sophia forgot they were pretending. The warmth of his touch, the protective way he held her, the pride in his voice when he spoke about her abilities. It all felt incredibly real. "Congratulations to you both," Victoria said, though her smile had become strained. She was clearly not accustomed to not being the center of attention. "Daniel mentioned you two lived together in that small apartment downtown. You must have moved somewhere more suitable now." "Actually," Alexander interjected casually, "Sophia's been considering moving into my penthouse overlooking the harbor. The views are spectacular, and the space would be perfect for the home office she needs." Sophia knew that penthouse. She had been there several times for work meetings. It was essentially a palace in the sky, with floor-to-ceiling windows, a rooftop terrace, and amenities that most people could only dream about. Daniel looked physically ill. Throughout their entire relationship, he had criticized Sophia for her lack of ambition, for being satisfied with her modest apartment and simple lifestyle. And now here she was, apparently dating one of the wealthiest men in the city, and living a life far beyond anything Daniel could provide. "That sounds lovely," Daniel managed to say. clearing his throat awkwardly. "I suppose you two are very happy together." "Extremely," Alexander replied. And then he did something that stopped Sophia's heart completely. He turned to her, cupped her face gently with one hand, and kissed her. It was not a quick peck or a performative gesture for their audience. It was a real kiss, slow and deep and absolutely devastating. His lips moved against hers with a tenderness that made her knees weak. His hands slid into her hair, fingers tangling in the dark waves she had spent an hour perfecting. His other hand remained firm on her waist, pulling her closer until she could feel the solid warmth of his body against hers. Sophia, found herself responding without thinking, her arms reaching up to wrap around his neck, losing herself completely in the sensation. The ballroom, Daniel, Victoria, all of it faded away. There was only Alexander, only this moment, only the feeling of his lips on hers and the racing of her heart. When they finally separated, both were breathing hard. Alexander looked at her with an intensity she had never seen before. Something dark and heated and completely unlike his usual professional demeanor. Sophia felt dizzy, overwhelmed, utterly confused about what was real and what was performance. "The auction is starting," Alexander said softly, his voice slightly rough. His thumb traced along her jawline, a gesture so intimate it made her shiver. "Shall we find our seats?" Sophia could only nod, not trusting her voice. When she finally managed to look around, Daniel and Victoria had already moved away, disappearing into the crowd. But Sophia barely registered their departure. All she could think about was the kiss, the way it had felt, and the growing realization that something had just fundamentally shifted between her and Alexander as they walked toward the auction seating. Alexander kept his hand on the small of her back, a continued claim of possession that both thrilled and terrified her. Sophia's mind raced with questions. Why had he done this? Was it just kindness, protecting her from her ex's cruelty? Or had that kiss meant something more? "Alexander," she started to say, but he interrupted gently. "Later," he said quietly. "Let's get through tonight first. Then we will talk about everything." But Sophia already knew that nothing would ever be the same again. That kiss had awakened something she had been carefully ignoring for years. Her feelings for Alexander were not just professional respect or friendly affection. They were something far more dangerous, far more consuming, and far more impossible to control. The auction proceeded around them, but Sophia barely registered the proceedings. She sat beside Alexander, hyper-aware of every place their bodies touched, every accidental brush of his hand, every glance he sent her way. Her lips still tingled from his kiss, and she could not stop replaying the moment in her mind. What had they just started? And more importantly, how would they ever go back to the way things were before? Sophia barely slept that night. She lay in her modest apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying the kiss over and over in her mind, the way Alexander's lips had felt against hers, the warmth of his hand on her waist, the intensity in his eyes when they pulled apart. It had felt so real, so genuine. She could almost forget it had been a performance for her ex-boyfriend's benefit. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Alexander. "Can we talk? Coffee at 9? Sophia's heart raced as she typed back a simple yes. Ash. She spent the next 2 hours getting ready, changing outfits 3 times before settling on a casual blue dress that somehow made her feel more confident. They met at a small cafe far from the business district, somewhere private, where they were unlikely to run into colleagues or clients. Alexander was already there when she arrived, looking unfairly handsome in jeans and a simple white shirt. She had rarely seen him in casual clothes, and it made him seem more approachable, more human. "Sophia." He stood as she approached, pulling out her chair with the same gentlemanly manner he always displayed. "Thank you for meeting me." "Of course," she said, settling into her seat and accepting the latte he had already ordered for her. He remembered exactly how she liked it. He always did. An awkward silence stretched between them, so different from their usual easy professional rapport. Finally, Alexander spoke. "About last night," he began, his blue eyes serious. "I owe you an explanation and an apology. I should not have put you in that position without asking first. When I saw how that man was treating you, making you feel small, I just reacted. It was inappropriate of me. Sophia felt something deflate in her chest. Of course, he was apologizing. It had just been a kind gesture, nothing more. You do not need to apologize, she said quietly, stirring her coffee to avoid meeting his eyes. You were trying to help. I appreciate it. Daniel always had a way of making me feel inadequate, and you saved me from complete humiliation. He is an idiot, Alexander said firmly. Anyone who made you feel less than extraordinary is a fool who did not deserve you. The conviction in his voice made Sophia look up. Alexander was watching her with an expression she could not quite read. The thing is, he continued, his fingers drumming nervously on his coffee cup, that kiss was not entirely for show. I have been wanting to do that for longer than I care to admit. Sophia's breath caught. What? Alexander leaned forward, his gaze intense. Sophia, I have had feelings for you for over a year now. Real feelings that go far beyond our professional relationship. But I never said anything because of the power dynamic, because I did not want to make you uncomfortable, because I convinced myself it was inappropriate and impossible. You have feelings for me? Sophia whispered, her mind struggling to process what she was hearing. Yes, he said simply. And last night, when I had the excuse to hold you, to kiss you, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. But I understand if this complicates everything. I understand if you want to maintain our professional boundaries. I can transfer you to a different department, if that would make you more comfortable. Your career and comfort are more important than my feelings. Sophia sat back, overwhelmed. All this time, she had assumed her attraction to Alexander was one-sided, inappropriate, impossible. She had spent 3 years carefully hiding every flutter of her heart, every stolen glance, every moment when his smile made her forget how to breathe. I have feelings for you too, she heard herself say, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I have for a long time. But I thought you saw me as just your assistant. Just another employee? Alexander's face transformed, hope lighting his eyes. Never just anything. You are brilliant, creative, strong, and you challenge me to be better every single day. They stared at each other across the small cafe table. Years of unspoken attraction suddenly laid bare between them. So what do we do now? Sophia asked. I have an idea, Alexander said slowly. The story is already out there. People saw us together at the gala. By now, half the city probably knows about us from social media and gossip columns. What if we continued the charade publicly for a while? It gives us time to figure out if this can work without the immediate pressure of defining everything. You want a fake date? Sophia asked, surprised. I want a real date, Alexander corrected. But with the cover of people thinking we have been together longer than we have, it protects both of us. If it works out, wonderful. If it does not, we can claim we realized we were better as colleagues. No one gets hurt professionally. It was logical, strategic, very much like Alexander's approach to business. But Sophia saw the vulnerability beneath the practical suggestion. He was as scared as she was about risking everything they had built together. Okay, she agreed. Let's try this. Society game the next few weeks were both thrilling and terrifying. Sophia and Alexander attended events together, his hand always possessive on her back. Their public displays of affection carefully calculated to look natural. But in private, they were carefully exploring their real feelings. He took her to quiet restaurants, where they talked for hours about everything except work. He learned that she loved old movies and mysteries novels. She discovered his secret passion for cooking and his surprising talent for terrible puns. They laughed together, argued about books and politics, and slowly the wall between boss and employee began to crumble. But the pressure from Alexander's social circle was intense. At a gallery opening, Sophia overheard 2 women discussing her. She is just his assistant, one whispered. Playing dress-up in borrowed clothes? He will get bored eventually. Men like Alexander Blackwood do not actually marry women like her. The words stung, even though Sophia tried to ignore them. She knew she was being judged, measured against expectations of wealth and pedigree that she could never meet. Then there was Alexander's family. His mother, Margaret Blackwood, was a formidable woman who had built her own fashion empire. She invited them to dinner at the family estate. and the evening was an exercise in subtle intimidation. Sophia, Margaret said over the first course. Alexander tells me you have been working for him for 3 years. How ambitious of you to rise so quickly within the company. The implication was clear. Sophia had slept her way to her current position. Actually, Alexander interjected firmly, Sophia earned every promotion through exceptional work. Her strategic insights saved 3 major projects and increased our efficiency by 30%. I was lucky she chose to work with me instead of accepting offers from our competitors. Margaret's smile was cold. Of course. I am sure she is very talented. Still, office romances can be so complicated. People talk, you know. They wonder about favoritism, about propriety. Sophia felt her face flush, but before she could respond, Alexander stood up. Mother, Sophia is not just someone I work with. She is the woman I am falling in love with. If you cannot treat her with the respect she deserves, then we will leave. The table fell silent. Margaret looked shocked. Alexander's younger sister, Emily, grinned with obvious approval, and Sophia felt her heart swell with emotion she could barely contain. They did not leave, but the rest of dinner was tense. In the car afterward, Sophia finally spoke. Thank you for defending me. But Alexander, your mother is not wrong. People are talking. They think I am using you for money and position. They think you are making a mistake. I do not care what people think, Alexander said fiercely, reaching over to take her hand. The only opinions that matter are yours and mine. Do you think you are using me? No. Do you think I am making a mistake? I hope not, Sophia said honestly, but I am scared. Scared of losing my job if this falls apart. Scared of not being good enough for your world. Scared that eventually you will realize you could have someone who fits better.
Alexander
Pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to face her fully. Sophia Martinez, you are enough. You have always been enough. You are smart, strong, beautiful, and you make me happier than I have ever been. Please believe that. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And Sophia let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe this could actually work. 2 weeks later, everything got more complicated. Daniel showed up at Sophia's apartment building, waiting for her when she got home from work. Sophia, please, can we talk? He asked, looking surprisingly humble. Against her better judgment, she agreed to coffee at the shop across the street. I made a mistake, Daniel said once they were seated. Breaking up with you was the biggest mistake of my life. I see that now. Watching you with Blackwood, seeing how successful you have become, it made me realize what I lost. Daniel, what are you doing? Sophia asked wearily. I am asking for another chance, he said. Victoria and I broke up. She was not real, not like you. You and I had something genuine. We understood each other. We came from the same world. We are from the same world, Sophia corrected. Past tense. I have moved on, Daniel. I have feelings for Alexander. Real feelings. Does he have real feelings for you? Daniel challenged. Or are you convenient? Available? Men like Blackwood do not end up with women like us, Sophia. They marry society women who went to the right schools and have the right connections. You are a fling to him, a distraction. His words echoed the doubts already circling in Sophia's mind, but she forced herself to meet his eyes steadily. Maybe you are right, she said. Maybe it will not work out. But I would rather take that risk with someone who treats me like an equal than settle for someone who made me feel worthless. You killed my confidence, Daniel. You made me question every dream I had. Alexander makes me believe I can achieve anything. He is using you, Daniel insisted. Mark my words. When he gets bored or when his family puts enough pressure on him, he will break your heart. And I will be waiting when he does. Sophia stood up. Do not wait. Move on with your life, Daniel. I have. She left him there and walked home, but his words haunted her. That night, when Alexander called to say goodnight, she found herself being distant, guarded. Is everything okay? He asked, concern clear in his voice. Just tired, she lied. Long day. But Alexander knew her too well. Sophia, talk to me. What happened? So she told him about Daniel, about his warnings, about the fears she could not quite shake. "He is wrong," Alexander said firmly. "But I understand why his words got to you. This situation is complicated. We are complicated. But my feelings for you are not complicated. They are the simplest, truest thing in my life right now." "Your mother hates me," Sophia said quietly. "Your social circle judges me. Every event we attend, I feel people measuring me and finding me lacking. How long before you start to see me the way they do?" "Never," Alexander said fiercely. "Sophia, I need you to hear me. I do not care about society's expectations. I do not care about pedigree or connections. I care about you, about us, about building something real together." "But what if it is not enough?" Sophia whispered. "What if love is not enough when our worlds are so different?" A long pause. Then Alexander said, "Meet me at my office tomorrow. I want to show you something." The next day, Sophia found Alexander in his office with legal documents spread across his desk. "What is all this?" she asked. "New company structure," he explained. "I am creating a partnership model for the strategic development division. You would not be my employee anymore. You would be my equal partner, with full ownership stake and decision-making power. Your title, your position, your success would be completely independent of our personal relationship." Sophia stared at him in shock. "Alexander, you cannot restructure your entire company because of me." "I am not," he said, moving around the desk to stand in front of her. "I am restructuring because it is the right business decision. Your ideas have been driving our success. You deserve equity and recognition. This removes the power dynamic that makes our relationship complicated. We become true partners, in business and in life." What? Tears filled Sophia's eyes. "You would do this for me?" "I would do anything for you," Alexander said simply. "Because I am in love with you, Sophia. Completely, irreversibly in love with you. And I want to build a life with you where we stand side by side as equals." Sophia launched herself into his arms, kissing him with all the emotion she had been holding back. "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. "I am so in love with you, it terrifies me." They stood there, holding each other, and Sophia felt something settle in her chest. This was real. This was worth fighting for, 3 months into their relationship. Both public and private, Sophia faced her biggest challenge yet. Alexander had been right about restructuring the company. Her new role as partner and director of strategic development gave her legitimate authority and removed the appearance of favoritism. But it also meant presenting directly to the board of directors, many of whom still viewed her with skepticism. The conference room was intimidating, filled with powerful executives and major investors. Margaret Blackwood sat at one end of the table, her expression neutral, but her eyes calculating. Sophia had prepared for weeks, knowing this presentation could make or break her credibility. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I am here to present our expansion strategy for sustainable technology integration in developing markets." For the next 45 minutes, Sophia presented detailed analysis, financial projections, and strategic partnerships. She fielded questions with confidence, backed up every claim with data, and demonstrated a comprehensive understanding of both the technology and the market forces at play. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then James Whitfield, one of the oldest board members, began to clap. Others joined in, and Sophia felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Exceptional work, Miss Martinez," James said. "This is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. I move to approve this initiative immediately." The vote was unanimous. As the meeting concluded, several board members approached Sophia to congratulate her personally. Even Margaret gave her a slight nod of acknowledgement. Outside the conference room, Alexander was waiting. "You were brilliant," he said, pulling her into a quick embrace despite being in the office. "I knew you would be." "I was terrified," Sophia admitted. "What if I had failed?" "You could never fail," Alexander said firmly. "You are too talented, too prepared, too determined. This is who you are, Sophia. Not my girlfriend. Not my employee. A brilliant strategist who earned her place at this table. A family confrontation that weekend, Margaret Blackwood invited them to lunch at her penthouse. Sophia expected another uncomfortable meal filled with subtle criticisms, but Margaret surprised her. "Sophia, I owe you an apology," Margaret said once they were seated. "I have been unfair to you. I made assumptions based on appearances rather than giving you a chance to prove yourself." Sophia blinked in surprise. "Mrs. Blackwood, please call me Margaret," she interrupted. "What I saw at that board meeting was exceptional. You have a mind for business that reminds me of myself at your age. I built my fashion empire from nothing, fighting every step of the way against people who judged me for my background. I should not have done the same thing to you." "Thank you," Sophia said quietly. "That means a lot." Margaret turned to Alexander. "Your father would have liked her. He always valued substance over style, authenticity over pretense. I see now why you love her." Alexander reached over and took Sophia's hand. "She is my partner in every sense of the word." "I can see that," Margaret said with a genuine smile. "So when is the wedding?" Both Sophia and Alexander choked on their wine simultaneously. Margaret laughed, the first time Sophia had heard her do so. "I am not trying to rush you," Margaret said. "But when you know, you know. Life is too short to waste time on what other people think." After lunch, as they drove back to Alexander's penthouse, Sophia felt lighter than she had in months. Approval she had been seeking, not just from Margaret, but from Alexander's entire world, suddenly seemed less important. What mattered was what they felt for each other. The unexpected crisis, but their happiness was short-lived. The following week, a scandal erupted. Someone leaked to the press about Sophia's relationship history with Daniel, painting her as a social climber who had moved from one successful man to the next, always trading up. The articles were vicious, filled with half-truths and outright lies. Gold digger or genius? One headline read, "From struggling assistant to millionaire's partner, the suspicious rise of Sophia Martinez." Sophia was devastated. She stopped going to the office, unable to face the gossip and judgment. Alexander tried to comfort her, but she withdrew into herself, all her old insecurities flooding back. "Maybe Daniel was right," she told Alexander one evening as they sat in his living room. "Maybe I do not belong in your world. Look at what they are saying about me. About us. I am ruining your reputation." "I do not care about my reputation," Alexander said fiercely. "I care about you. We will fight this together." "How?" Sophia asked, tears streaming down her face. "How do we fight rumors and judgment and the entire society that thinks I am not good enough for you?" Alexander was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. "James?"
"Alexander."
"I need you to arrange a press conference for tomorrow morning." "Yes, I am sure. It is time to set the record straight." The press conference the next morning, Alexander stood before a room full of reporters with Sophia beside him. She had wanted to hide, but he insisted she be there, standing next to him as an equal. "I called this press conference to address the recent media coverage about my personal life," Alexander began, his voice clear and strong. "Sophia Martinez is not a gold digger or a social climber. She is one of the most talented business strategists I have ever worked with. Before we began our romantic relationship, she had already been instrumental in saving millions of dollars in projects and developing strategies that increased our company's efficiency and profits." He pulled out documents and data, presenting a clear timeline that showed Sophia's professional achievements had nothing to do with their personal relationship. But beyond her professional accomplishments, Alexander continued, "Sophia is kind, intelligent, creative, and strong. She challenges me to be a better person every day. She came from modest means and worked incredibly hard to get where she is. That is not something to be ashamed of. That is something to be admired." He turned to look at Sophia, his eyes filled with love. "I am in love with her, completely and without reservation. And I do not care who has a problem with that." Then, to Sophia's shock, Alexander got down on one knee in front of the cameras and reporters. "Sophia Martinez," he said, pulling out a small velvet box. "I had planned to do this privately, but I realized that our entire relationship has been under public scrutiny. So let me be clear, in front of everyone, you are my partner, my equal, my love. Will you marry me?" The room erupted in chaos. cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. But Sophia heard none of it. All she could see was Alexander on his knee, offering her not just a ring, but a life of complete partnership and unconditional love. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, kissing her thoroughly, while the cameras captured every moment. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through tears. "I love you," Sophia said. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "Then let us be terrified together," Alexander replied, pulling her close. 6 months later, the wedding was intimate, held at a small vineyard with only close family and friends in attendance. Margaret had helped Sophia plan everything, and they had grown surprisingly close in the months leading up to the ceremony. Emily, Alexander's sister, was Sophia's maid of honor. As Sophia walked down the aisle toward Alexander, she thought about the journey that had brought them here, the pretend relationship that became real, the challenges they had faced, the judgment they had overcome, the love they had built together. Alexander watched her approach with tears in his eyes, and Sophia knew with absolute certainty that this was exactly where she belonged. During the reception, Daniel appeared at the edge of the celebration. He had not been invited, but security let him approach when he said he just wanted to offer congratulations. "You were right," he told Sophia quietly, "about everything. You deserved someone who believed in you, who made you feel strong. I am sorry I never did that." "Thank you," Sophia said, meaning it. "I hope you find that for yourself someday." Daniel nodded and left, and Sophia returned to Alexander's arms, where she belonged. Later that night, as they danced under the stars, Alexander whispered in her ear, "No regrets?" Sophia looked up at him, at this man who had seen her value when she could not see it herself, who had fought for her, believed in her, loved her completely. "Not a single one," she said. "This is the best adventure I could have ever imagined." "Just wait," Alexander said, spinning her around. "We are only getting started." And as they danced into their future, Sophia knew that whatever challenges came, they would face them together. Partners in business, equals in life, and forever in love. The pretend relationship that began with one kiss at a party had transformed into the truest love either of them had ever known. And that was the greatest success story of all. Sometimes the best relationships start when we least expect them. Sometimes the person who sees our true value is the one standing right beside us all along. Sometimes one kiss really can change everything.